This video is for the X carriage and hot end. So we'll be mounting the hot end onto the X carriage. I'm going to start by making the X rail like we did for the Y rails, and I'm just going to take these three parts. So one side of the part with M3 tapped holes, a centerpiece which stacks onto that, and the other part with countersunk holes there. I'm just going to take these M3 by 8 bolts and just pop them. These are flathead or countersunk bolts. So now we can assemble the carriage and mount the hot end onto it. First thing is getting these two little brackets into this slot. Now if it's a tight fit there, which it is, just give it a little sand down on the sandpaper. The other thing that these need to do, they're going to sit together like this. They need to locate securely right into this little cutout here. So that feels about right there. So first check that it fits, that these little pegs fit in the hole, and then that the whole lot fits into that little cutout there. I'm going to put that in place, just wipe some of that dust off. Put that in place and glue it. So now that that's set, I'm just going to take the hot end. We'll mount this in place. Now that should sit so that the vanes of the heatsink sit flush against the cutout, so it sits there nice and securely. What we're going to do is just use a couple of winds of wire, just copper wire, to hold this in place. So there's some little holes at the back, which you can see there. So just from this front side, I'm going to thread that through from one direction and through from the other. You can see that coming out through the back. Just pull that tight as I possibly can, and then start giving it a bit of a twist until it's quite tight in there. Yep, that's quite secure. So now that that's done, with the pliers, clip those off, and then bend that down, bend the tag down into that slot, because that needs to be underneath this surface here when we assemble it with the rail. So that's quite secure. Next one, it's a couple of little holes just down in the small holes here. Don't put it through your threaded holes, the M3 tapped holes. It's got to go through these little holes just on the corners there. And that goes through that last vane. Like that. Make sure it goes all in line. And again, just cross those over and give it a little bit of a turn. Now if you overdo it, it can actually snap the copper. But we just want to make sure it's nice and tight. And then clip it off. And again, flatten that down, sticking it right in that vein. So it looks like that. Now, the next thing we want to do is insert this piece of PTFE. This is what's called a Bowden cable setup. So the stepper motor that drives the filament down through into the hot end isn't actually moving with the carriage. It's set onto the back of the machine. This just means that all the moving parts are a lot lighter, which is good. Does have its other downfalls, but I won't go into those at the moment. So this piece of PTFE needs to sit right down inside the hot end. So I'm just going to pop that down in there and seat it as hard as I can down against the end stop down there, or a little flange. There's a flange that actually stops it, so I'll push that hard down against that. I'm going to take this threaded fitting. I'm going to take this threaded fitting and just sit it up against there, and now I'm just going to grab a marker and pop a mark right in line with the top of the fitting itself. That just tells me where I need to be when I insert this for real. I'll just pop this back in like this. Tighten it up. So you can see it goes down that far into the heat sink. So now I'm just going to push that all the way in. And that's right at the base of my mark. So I know that's hit the bottom, which is great. Now I'm going to just assemble the rail onto the back of this part. Now we'll have to take this off again when we mount it onto the machine, but this just keeps the assembly together. We just take one of our M3x12 button heads, put it on that end, and the other on this end. And take our limit switch, and we're going to mount that onto the back like this with some M3x10 button heads. Now these two holes need to be tapped, and we're going to take that limit switch and put it on the back of the part with the paddle pointing upwards. And locate that M3x10 bolt into one of those holes, and the other. And we're done.